Welcome to the Insights Festival show. It is the final airing of the Insights Festival show, as much as it pains for me to say, but it is almost time for gin and tonic cocktail hour. And of course, if we had been live at one of our Esomar events, we probably would have been having our closing reception just as we speak. So unfortunately, we're going to have the digital alternative to that. And hopefully you've enjoyed the screenings of the Insights Festival show accompanying the Insights Festival. Of course, if you've missed the Insights Festival, be sure to still register, because guess what? All of the content that's been happening for the last 3 days is available on demand. So it means that if you've missed a session that you've been interested in, you were too busy, or you had something else happening, it's okay. You can still catch up and play back the content that you've been missing. It's available for you on demand, and you can register for free on the Esomar website. So do make that choice to connect with us, to participate in the Insights Festival, even if it's after this fact. To help me close the Insights Festival show, I've asked a few people from the Esomar community to come and join us to talk a little bit about their impressions of the Insights Festival, to talk a little bit about what they found as their highlights, but also to let us know a little bit kind of what their key takeaways were, perhaps key takeaways for you as well. So without further ado, let me introduce who's going to be joining us. I've asked Crispin, who's our Esomar representative for the UK, to join us, as well as Judith Passingham, who's the chairwoman of the Professional Standards Committee. And of course, joining me back is Finn Rabin, my Director General, and we're going to close this all together. So Crispin, Judith, and Finn, welcome to the show. And perhaps let me give the floor first to Crispin to tell us a little bit about what his impressions were of the Insights Festival.
Yeah, thanks, Kim. Well, it's been fantastic. Thanks, Kim. It's been fantastic.
So we're having some technical issues. So I'm going to actually give the floor straight over to Finn, Director General of Esomar. So Finn, welcome back to the show, and please do let us know kind of what were your impressions, because I know that you've been, of course, monitoring most of the activities. You've also been hosting some of the sessions. So, you know, you've had, of course, a front row seat to the Insights Festival.
Yeah, well, look, thanks, Kim. And by the way, let me also just say a big thank you to Judith for joining us. And as always with these things, technical glitches occur. As some of you may have noticed over the past few days, we have been struck by the technical gods, or struck down by the technical gods every now and then. So clearly they're coming home to roost on this session as well. I see Crispin is back, so maybe we can just switch to him and just see what his thoughts were on Congress, or Insights Festival, I should say.
Indeed, welcome back, Crispin.
Hi, the joys of technology. Well, it's been fantastic to hear from so many great people, both in the Esomar community like Finn and Kristen Luck, but also one of the keynote speakers for me that was just inspirational was Gerald Rard, and talking about some of the issue-related area where evidence and facts and the truth are so important. And for me, that was the highlight of the conference. I absolutely felt there was a lot for all of us to learn from that.
Thanks, Crispin.
Yeah, I think that makes it. I think that's a really good point, Crispin. And before I respond, I really should pass the word to Judith. Judith, your thoughts on how you thought things went and things that you noted.
Oh yes, okay, thanks, Finn. So I think the first thing was somebody this morning said that Esomar were the rock stars of our industry, and that gave me a real warm glow inside. You know, sort of. Being associated with Esomar, so I thought that was very good. My highlight was the Naomi Henn interview on the second half of the day on the Tuesday session, because it was a kind of reminder to me that sort of the people who are quite tenured in our industry have got something to offer, and that sort of that hugely rich experience. And I found some of the things that she said quite moving, actually. So I really like that. I like the interview between Zoe Ruffles of GSK and Graham Lawrence, and they were very honest about some of the issues in terms of balancing the need to make money and the need to turn consumer insights into revenue generating opportunities against those consumer insights. So, you know, really finding out what's happening and what people's motivations are. I found that a very good discussion. We've been having a little bit of a debate in the Professional Standards Committee about sort of some of the ethical overlay that we should be putting around the topic of AI. And sort of, so with that lens, I found the session this morning chaired by John Keenan on sort of research doing good, when there was example after example of research doing social good. I found that very heartening and relevant. And I also enjoyed the diversity and inclusion session on the first afternoon. I think that's a really important topic. And I'm very pleased to see that Esomar is really getting its arms around that topic and also coming up with some practical activities for some of the partnerships that Kim has been signing up. And then finally, John Paulston's presentation on demographics I found very good. I've obviously seen that before, and we've been arguing about that. And it's a very old topic. I remember when I first joined the market research industry, it was a topic. But I think it is definitely time to kind of put that back on the table and see what we can practically do. All in all, I found it a very, very rich and sort of very thought-provoking meeting, and very easy to get around the topics as well. It's very clearly posted and to see what's going on where.
And I think, Judith, you make a good point about some of the topics. It's a bit like Back to the Future, really, where issues that have been have been, you know, prevalent in our sector for so long seem to have been rejuvenated a little bit as a result of the pandemic. And Crispin, I know you mentioned about Gerard Ryle and the need to be truthful and to seek out truth. But I think it was also important to see things like rigor and quality standards being injected again in so many of the conversations, when I guess in recent times it has almost been a default position that said, oh, somebody else will look after that, or the system will look after it. And clearly we need to spend a little bit more time, and we have to put a little bit more attention into some of those core traditional values that again, we can't simply take for granted. They do take an amount of work and an amount of attention to get right. Moving forward, Crispin, can I ask you, you know, if there's a topic or a message that's to be brought forward from this, what would it be for you?
I think for me, it's really about us being the champions of the truth and making sure that we take the time to check our facts and make sure that people can rely on our industry to always provide robust evidence and the truth, so they know if they're getting something from us, that they can rely on it and take it as evidence rather than it being speculation. And that's particularly true in the world we live in, with fake news and unreliable sources being published as truth and evidence. But we can actually hold the keys to that, to be the one profession, if you like, that you can always guarantee that it's built on robust data and it's proper evidence.
And the other point that I must say struck me throughout all of the presentations was this level of humanity again. I know it's been referred to using different words. On the one hand, it was be human, humanity, grace, dignity, which sort of struck also a very heartwarming chord for me, given that we've come out of 18 months of relative isolation, very different ways of working. And I found that at least the community seemed to be centering around that. What was that? Did you get a similar sense, Judith, for that same sort of sentiment?
Yes, I definitely felt that as a thread running through. And sort of, I think the nature of our community is a bit like that anyway. I mean, sort of, it kind of marries very well with the insights community. I mean, sort of coming back on what Crispin just said, I completely agree with this. I mean, sort of, if we don't stand for something, we don't have the right to be anything. And sort of, if you think about what Jay Walker Smith was saying in the session earlier today about sort of, you know, people want researchers to be provocative, to sort of be action orientated, to be, you know, we have to be a little bit more courageous, I think, as an industry in terms of what we actually stand for, and to say, no, that isn't right, to do it that way is not right. Or, you know, we're going to have standards because we respect respondents. That's kind of the way we're going to lead this industry. And I definitely felt that coming through in the content, as well as the humanity point that you were just talking about, Finn. But sort of, I think we need to be kind of courageous as an industry and be very clear about what we stand for, both with our sort of respondent base, our client base, and other stakeholders that are increasingly important. So if you look at what's happening in terms of legislative developments and the way that sort of, research is having to weave its way through and sort of make sure it's fully compliant, you can see all these themes emerging. And I think that's one of the reasons why it's very important that we have events like this. And there is a very, a powerful dialogue that's going on in the industry about some of these issues and topics, with actions coming out of it.
Well, I think that was also echoed, was it not, by a number of the client side speakers, which I was hugely buoyed by. I think most prevalently by the Department of Health in Ireland, where clearly they needed to get something very clear, very honest, very objective out at a relative pace to combat the impact of the pandemic. And indeed in the GSK conversation as well, it was nice to see that string running through a number of those presentations.
And also, if you look at sort of the very interesting the results from the GMR that were shown sort of as part of the meeting, showing that the research industry has grown through the period of the pandemic. I mean, that speaks volumes, doesn't it, about sort of the role that research is actually playing? Because I remember sort of a while ago, there was a prediction about quite strong decline within the industry, but the fact that it's trusted, valued, useful at times like this in order to diagnose what's actually happening in a very dynamic way, I think is borne out by what we're seeing in the numbers in terms of industry growth. So I found that very heartening, those results.
Yes, and clearly, the other point which I loved was that I thought some of the yes pitches were brilliant. I thought the whole Research Got Talent side and the contribution there was magnificent. And of course, the fact that the Best Paper Award went to, well, another member or a member of the UK community again. And Crispin, as representative, you must be delighted that John came to the front again, has walked away with the trophy. So his paper, if I remember the name correctly, it's Seeing Beyond the Real Why and the Hidden Who, which was presented at Edinburgh 2 years ago. Delighted that he won that, and well, no more deserved winner than himself and Chris Hughes from Ogilvy. Chris Graves, I should say. Where did Hughes come from? I'm clearly suffering from post-Congress memory at this stage. Kim, the diversity, the panel I thought was hugely provocative in many ways. The work that Trixie Cartwright did was fantastic. I think to have that complemented by the Unilever guideline points was also on. You must be very happy that a lot of the work that you're facilitating and that came to such rich fruition.
Absolutely, and I think it's clearly something which, again, resonates with the industry, and I think it goes back to that human connection that we're trying to build, and really the fact that diversity and inclusion is a topic which is coming up so strongly, but is also being echoed so strongly by the community itself, makes it all the more worthwhile. And I think the work that we've got planned for the rest of the year to really build and to co-create, in essence, those guidelines focusing around diversity and inclusion and the role that the industry can play to push forward that agenda, but also make sure that we as an industry are contributing to that cause in a positive way. I think it speaks very loudly in terms of the potential, but also the impact that the industry can have when we put our thoughts and our minds and our hearts together.
And just to build on that, sorry, is sort of, as well as sort of it being a desirable thing to do from a moral and social perspective, we can also, as we've had many discussions, Kim, see coming down the track, the legislative requirements to be representative of all elements of society. So when you're using research data training sets for artificial intelligence programs, it looks as if it's going to be a legal requirement that you make sure those data sets are fully representative. So that's another aspect of what you're talking about there. And so that's a very good reason, another reason for why people should take this very seriously.
And Crispin, I mean, I guess that's, that's also a very strong business imperative now, because clearly there are more and more businesses adopting some form of algorithmic offering. And I know many of them are pioneering the way, certainly in the UK, given that the EU is occasionally a little slower in its legislative approach, and the UK is looking to certainly build on that. Do you think that's a topic that we're going to have to revisit in considerably more detail going forward? And with that, we lose Crispin. So
yes, unfortunately, I think he's really battling with the technology. So clearly, probably to have the European Union come back and help build the digital infrastructure again.
Well, sort of, I think the answer to your question is yes, and sort of like maybe also to ask people to look out for our AI white paper that's coming in the next few weeks, where we are sort of throwing a firecracker or two on the floor and saying, look, this is what we think we should be doing as an industry in terms of preparedness for AI, both for the legislation and also some practical tips and hints for what we think research organizations need to be looking at. And so if you keep an eye out for that, because sort of we'll be asking for very active feedback on that topic with a view to preparing some codes and guidelines down the track.
But you took the words right out of my mouth, Judith, because I was about to compliment you not just on the AI white paper, but also clearly on both the primary research on the duty of care guidelines and the discussion that we had with Reg, with Deborah, and with Melanie, which I thought again was a lovely encapsulation of a common thread being apparent from perspectives right across the global geographies.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. The papers are there. By the way, if anybody is watching this who's not a member of Esomar, all I can say is please join, because otherwise you won't have access to the papers that sat behind many of those presentations. Yeah. And indeed, a lot of the documentation that we've referred to is only available to members. So if there's something in here that appeals to you, then please don't hesitate to contact us. As I said, we'd love to have you and to allow you to join the family, or to invite you to join the family. So please consider that.
On that note, I think we need to start thinking about, unfortunately, closing the Insights Festival show, although I could spend hours talking to you both about professional standards, ethics, and of course, the future of the industry. We've fortunately, Crispin had a lot of technical issues, but hopefully you've kind of gotten the sense of what he had to say. Current congratulations to him and the UK community for the Best Paper Award, a well-deserved one. Finn, Judith, is there any final kind of key takeaways you would like our audience to get before we close the show and we prepare ourselves for next year, for what hopefully will be a face-to-face event in Toronto?
Hope so. I think Finn's point about joining Esomar is an important one. I mean, sort of, first of all, you get access to this hugely rich content and sort of all the back catalogue of Esomar. It's like sort of, it's like access to the Rolling Stones back catalogue. Everything is there, through that nifty Anna search facility. And also you get access to all these rich discussions and dialogues that are going on with the circles and other forums that sort of like I find very useful in terms of a way of keeping up to date, both with the ideas and the people in the industry.
Yeah, and for me, I think it's that whole the rejuvenation in concepts like quality and rigor and objectivity and independence, which came out as very loud pleas, if you like, from the clients, the users and buyers of research study, the client perspective on the work that we do. And which really underlined the fact that while we certainly have lots of new and wonderful technologies and methodologies coming through, all of which provide exceptionally, vibrant ways of analyzing and reporting on data, some of the basic principles still prevail. And we do need to spend time to ensure that they are the hygiene factor, the uniqueness of what we do. And as you so beautifully put it, Judith, if we don't stand for it, then we stand for nothing. So I think that has to be the work going forward. So thanks, Judith, for taking a few minutes out of the busy day just to have a quick review. Thank you, Kim, for hosting us. I'll leave the last word to you. And to those of you that are watching, I hope you managed to catch some of Congress. If you didn't, please register. You can catch it on demand. And if you'd like to see any of the documentation, then please do contact us. As I said, we'd love to welcome you into the Esomar family.
Thanks, Finn, and thanks again all of you for watching the Insights Festival show. We hope that you've enjoyed all of the segments throughout the last 3 days. It's been a wonderful pleasure to host you. And again, register on esomar.org if you haven't seen some of the content. It's all available on demand. And until next time, remember, we have lots of events still upcoming. On the esomar.org website, you can get access to all of them. We have a number of call for speakers which are available as well, so you can join one of our upcoming flagship events. And of course, feel free to participate in one of our upcoming community circles. It is a great way to connect with the Esomar community. Even if you're not a member, you can join, participate in these circles, get a sense of what the community is all about before you actually, make that bold decision to join a really bold community that Esomar is. Thank you very much, and see you next time.